Okay, we are now recording. So this first meeting is not the town meeting. I introduced Jen Lineweaver, who is our new assessor. She's full-time assessor in Stonington. She's also the president of the Connecticut Assessors Association. We're so lucky to have her, even though it's a part-time position. I will say that she gets full-time work done in a part-time position, which is amazing. She asked if she could come tonight early and talk a little bit about the revaluation we're going through, that we've gone through, and the letters are going to be going out just after the holiday. And we're also recording this, so if you miss something, or if there's somebody that's not here wants to hear what Jen said, they'll be able to watch the meeting because it will be recorded, and you can go through the town website and get that information. So, Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Bob said, my name is Jennifer Lineweaver. I recently joined the North Stonington team in October. I'm very happy to be here. I am also the assessor for the town of Stonington, and I've spent the last 20 years in this profession. I'd like to discuss the 2025 revaluation process in general, and then provide you all with an update of what you can expect over the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months as we move forward with completing the project. So in Connecticut, we perform revaluations every 5 years per Connecticut state statute. The real estate market is in a constant state of fluctuation. And as a town moves farther and farther away from their last reval, the values become out of date and the assessments become inequitable. So what is the goal? The goal of a revaluation is to bring all market values current. It's not to raise taxes and it's not to lower taxes. The goal is the fair and equitable administration of the local property tax. A successful project ensures that all property in town is valued equitably and accurately so that all property owners are responsible for their fair share. So the North Stonington 2025 revaluation project was awarded to Equality Valuation Services. Now, their role is assisting us with the statistical analysis and modeling. If you all remember, data mailers were sent to all residential properties, and a data mailer is a document which can statutorily replace a physical inspection if both the exterior measurements and interior construction detail are confirmed by the property owner. We had a 46% return rate. We also do sales verifications. So sales verification forms were sent to all the properties that sold. And they asked questions to ensure that the transaction was a true market sale and verify the construction detail. There were 70 valid market sales between October 1st of 2024 and September 30th of 25. So what is a market sale? Market value is defined as the amount a typical and well-informed buyer would be willing to pay for a property on the open market with no undue forces affecting the sale. So market sales represent a huge foundation for how we perform evaluations and for what mass appraisal is. Mass appraisal is very different than single fee appraisal. So when you go to buy a home and you hire an appraiser, or the mortgage company hires an appraiser, they're doing a single fee appraisal. They're only concerned with that one property, and they're going to look for individual comps to adjust and find an indication of value. Now, while the principles, the appraisal concepts are similar in mass appraisal and single fee appraisal, how they're conducted is very different. So what we do is we build a model, and we build that model to be applied to all the properties in town, both those that have sold and those that have not sold. In single fee appraisal, there are very specific comparable sales identified and then defined adjustments made to those sales to arrive at an indication of value. In mass appraisal, we use all the sales, all the valid market transactions that have occurred in the past year, and we analyze those to properly determine base rates, base construction rates, land use, and market adjustments. So no singular group of properties were used to value any individual property. So if you come in and you say, I want to know what properties were used, what were the comparable properties used, there's not we're not going to be able to provide you with 3 to 5 houses like a single fee appraisal would be. So it's a little bit of a different process. And again, the goal is to ensure that all properties in town are equitably valued and all properties of a certain type or style are comparable in value. So what happens if there are no comparable sales to your property? If there's no comparable sales, we analyze the cost data. We look at local building rates and production rates. We determine what the cost would be to replace your building. Then appropriate depreciation is applied and a land value is added to approximate what the market value would be. Now, one of the most common misnomers of a revaluation is that all properties either appreciate or depreciate at the exact same rate. In any given market, you're going to have certain types of properties that will be more or less desirable or in demand. And there's always going to be shifts within the town in every revaluation. There might be neighborhoods that are more attractive to prospective buyers or a certain style of home that's become more trendy than 5 years ago. It's important to keep in mind that these new values are not a change over 1 year, they're a change over 5 years. So the assessments at this point have been based on the appraised value of October 1st, 2020. So the assessments right now are 5 years old. There will be differences in values with the current market, and different properties will also see a different rate dependent on how their property was valued in the last revaluation. When you're looking at what are comparable properties, a lot of times people will say, well, I looked at my neighbors. My neighbor is comparable because we're in the same neighborhood. Some of the things that you'll want to consider when you receive your value and when you're looking at other properties in town to see if it's a fair value is location. The style of the home. Is it a colonial? Is it a cape? Is it a ranch, raised ranch? How old is the house? What's the quality of construction? How much square footage do you have? So a 2,000 square foot colonial on only a half acre of land would not be comparable to a 1,500 square foot cape that maybe was only bought or built in 2024. So that is a little bit of the process. There's handouts, and this presentation is available both on the town website and on the assessor's page. But I know that what most people want to know is how is this going to affect you, right? So the assessor's office compiles the grand list, and the grand list represents the total net worth of the town. It's an annual account of all taxable and tax exempt property. It doesn't just include real estate, it's also motor vehicles and personal property. It's only one part of the budgetary equation. So once we finalize our numbers, we turn it over to the boards of finance and board of selectmen, and they need to determine how much needs to be raised by taxation to cover the town's expenses. So typically, the assessments of the grand list have an inverse relationship with the mill rate. If the town's budgetary needs stay largely the same and the grand list increases, then the amount the town needs to raise by taxation will be less and the mill rate would go down. Conversely, if you're in a declining market and you happen to revalue and your grand list goes down, the amount the town would need to raise would rise. As a result of the 2025 revaluation, I can tell you that the grand list is going to increase. We do not have final totals yet, but it is going to be an increase over the 2020 assessment. So when are you going to receive it? The valuation notices will be mailed on November 26th. So everyone should start receiving it probably by the beginning of next week. When you receive your notice, there's going to be a link to a website rather, that has all of the new values that will give you the ability to look at your property, look at properties that you feel are comparable to yours. Additionally, there's going to be a listing of all of the valid sales that occurred in the past year on the website. It's also available in the office if you want to get an idea of what things have been selling for. One thing to keep in mind when you receive your notice is that it's not going to reflect any exemptions that you might be receiving. So if you're a veteran, if you are on the homeowners program, if you're totally disabled, that exemption amount is not going to be reflected in that figure. Now, what do you do if you believe that something about the property or your property is incorrect. If it's a data point, like I have 4 bedrooms, not 5 bedrooms, we want you to call the office because that's something that will go out, we'll verify, and we'll correct. So if it's an actual construction detail, I have a finished basement, you guys don't have me for a finished basement, or vice versa. That's something that you'd want to call directly to the assessor's office, and we will figure out what steps need to be taken to correct the data. Now, if it's just a valuation concern, then your first step is going to be that you can set up an informal hearing with the revaluation company. So on the notice, it's going to have a phone number and an authorization code that's specific to your property that will allow you to set up an informal hearing with the company where you can go over your concerns. The informal hearings are set to take place at this point between December 1st and December 8th. This is the first step, and I am going to ask all of you for your cooperation. I'm sure all of you know Cecile, my wonderful assistant, who is amazing, and I'm very lucky to have her. But she's a one-woman show when I'm not in the office, so I'm hoping that please direct most of those first questions by going through the informal hearing process. Once you've gone through the informal hearing process, I'm available at any time, and I am happy to meet with anybody over any concerns or just general information on how the project was conducted. So my office hours are typically on Fridays. Next week, I will be there on Thursday. My email address is on the town website. I have access to my emails all week, and I can and will respond regularly. Now, how many people have seen something about the real estate market in the news over the past couple of years? Right? It's been pretty widespread. So a lot of people, I'm going to be honest, are going to have sticker shock. The median increase for North Stonington across all neighborhoods is going to be between 65 and 75%. And there's going to be properties that are more, that are higher than that, and there might be properties that are less. There's specific properties that might see a higher increase than others. It may have been that they were valued very low in the last reval. It could be that there's just something happening in the market that's making it. As you all know, there's been an outpouring from the cities into communities like Stonington, like North Stonington, and people are willing to pay a premium, and they have been. Ranches are typically extremely desired right now. A lot of prospective buyers are finding them to be one of the last pieces of affordable housing. Mobile homes, multifamily properties. Multi-generational living is becoming more and more commonplace as affordability is harder and our cost of living has increased. And it allows people to come and either be owner occupied and derive some income to help offset their mortgage, or maybe to have, a child or a parent stay with them. So you'll get your notice, you'll have an opportunity to speak to the company. You will have an opportunity to sit and meet with me. And even after that, once we've completed the final project and we sign the grand list, you will also have an opportunity to go to the Board of Assessment Appeals if you still disagree with your value. And typically we aim to have the grand list signed by January 31st every year. And typically petitions to the Board of Assessment Appeals will become available February 1st, and they would need to be filed by February 20th. Now, I did give an example, a hypothetical example in your packet that shows the math on what would happen when you see it. If you had a town grand list that was $2 billion and an annual budget of 50 million, what would the mill rate be? And then conversely, what would the mill rate be if the town's grand list then jumped to 4 billion and then kept the budget pretty much the same? And you can look at that. But I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have to the best of my ability. Okay, you can certainly give us a call. We can print you out a new one, or you can come in and we can show you the data that we have on file, and you can look it over and let us know whether or not that's complete. Yep. It probably would have been early on in the project timeline. That probably would have been one of the first steps taken. So revaluation projects typically take over a year to complete. So, yeah. Okay. So the biggest thing that I want to encourage you all to do is when you receive your notice, you do not want to take your assessment and multiply it by the current mill rate, because that is not going to result in any way an accurate estimate of what your tax bill might be. The other thing that I want to pay note of is that our reval happens to coincide with the timeline for the Department of Agriculture's release of the 2025 PA 490 values. North Stonington is a very PA 490 heavy town, and the Department of Ag, in coordination with OPM, typically puts out a study where they analyze leases, farm leases, the sale of properties where the development rights have been sold, conserved acreage, because they're trying to find what the market rate is for agricultural lands. There has been a substantial increase in those values. We've updated the town website with that information. Unfortunately, that's not something that we have any control over. That is something that the state prescribes. But I do want you all to be aware of it. And for those properties that do have PA 490, when you receive your notice, there's going to be 3 boxes. And I know you guys can't really see this very well, but everyone's going to get a notice like this. And there's going to be a box that shows what your current assessed value is and what your new value is. For those properties that have PA 490, there's going to be a third box. And it's going to show what your assessment is with the PA 490 reflected. So you will be able to see all 3 values. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, I'm very easy to reach and get a hold of. Like I said, typically outside of next week, I'm always in the office on Fridays from 8 to 4, and all my information is on the website. So I'd like to thank you all for giving me this time.
Thank you, Jen. We will start the meeting exactly at 6:30. If you have not checked in with the registrar, please do so. And there's 3 different pieces of information, paperwork information you might want to get that's on the desk. Thank you. Okay, we're going to begin the meeting. Everyone, I assume, has checked in with the registrar, and I hope you've taken some information that's on the counter. Tonight's town meeting has 6 questions on the call. If you took a packet, there's backup information for almost all the questions except for question number 2. So question number 1 on LoCIP will be presented by Alan Ladd. And Alan, you're in the room. Please come up front if you could. Question number 2, I'll handle on the right of the selectmen to obtain a loan. Question number 3 on the undesignated fund and appropriation will be handled by Mike Anderson if he arrives. Question number 4, I'll handle that on the deobligation of funds. Question 5, Avalonia, I will give the initial information, and then Dennis Main from Avalonia will follow up with a presentation. And if you're here for question number 6, I'm sure that many people might be here for question number 6. At 9 a.m. this morning, I received an email to ask me to withdraw that question from the town meeting. The director called me from the Giving Closet, said she is not interested in staying here at the school, at the old school. She'll be wanting me to withdraw the question from the town meeting, which I will, and she'll find another location to operate the Giving Closet. So if you're here for that question, we will not be talking about that this evening. She asked if she could have until the first of the year to move and find another location. So that's that. So we're going to start with question number 1. Oh, excuse me. First, we got to start with getting a moderator to run this. The nice thing about a town meeting is the first selectman, and I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman, in case you didn't know. I've been around for 4 years, 2 more anyway. Nice thing about a town meeting is I don't have to run it. We have to have a moderator run the meeting. So right now I'm going to open up the floor to any nominations for a moderator to run this town meeting. Do I hear a nomination? We have a nomination from Sean Murphy. Do I hear a second? Who said that, Judy? I can't see. Oh, Velda? Okay. We have a second. Are there any other nominations? Can I hear any other nominations other than Sean Murphy to moderate this meeting? Mr. Ricker moved the nominations. Thank you, Bill. All right. All those that want to have nominations closed, say aye. Aye. Okay. So we have one nominee, Sean Murphy. All those in favor of nominating Sean Murphy or voting for Sean Murphy to moderate this meeting, say aye. Aye. Sean, thank you.
First, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As a first order of business, I'd like to have the reading of the ground rules. Following the presentation of each item on the call, anyone having a comment or question shall form a line behind this podium here along the wall. The microphone shall be used at all times to accommodate online participants. Before speaking, participants must state their name and street address. Once anyone that desires to speak has had an opportunity to speak, only then will anyone be allowed to comment or ask another question. Once completed, the moderator will call for a vote on the motion. Motions to move the question will not be recognized until everyone has been given at least one opportunity to speak, or when determined by the moderator that we must move forward on the agenda. Comments or questions shall be limited to 2 minutes, must be relevant to the question on the call, and must be directed to the moderator. On questions of protocol, voters may respectfully ask point of order on procedure. Votes on question number 1 through 4 on the call shall be taken by a voice vote. Should the outcome be undetermined, then a vote will be taken by a show of hands. A vote on question number 5 will be taken by paper ballot. All registered voters of North Stonington and all persons owning at least $1,000 of taxable property on the grand list are eligible to vote on each question included on the call. Quote, any person not legally qualified who fraudulently votes in any town meeting or votes more than once shall be fined not less than $300 or more than $500 and shall be imprisoned not less than 1 year or more than 2 years and shall be disenfranchised. Voting by assuming the name of another shall be guilty of a Class D felony. Unquote. That's from Connecticut General Statutes, Section 9, Tech 360. Hearing no objections, these ground rules are adopted. At this time, I'd like to ask our town clerk to read the first part of the call and item number 1.
Warning is hereby given to the electors and those entitled to vote at town meetings of the town of North Stonington that a special town meeting shall be held at the following location on the date and time indicated for the purposes of transacting the business set forth below. Location, North Stonington Education Center Media Center, 298 Norwich Westerly Road, and via Zoom. Zoom link is noted in the call of the meeting. Meeting ID 820-2734-2892, passcode 909342. Date, November 24th, 2025, time 6:30 p.m. Only those attending the meeting in person will be able to vote. The meeting will be available for comment and viewing through Zoom at the link in the call, but those attending virtually will not be able to vote. All supporting documentation will be available on the town website, www.northstoningtonct.gov. Question 1. Shall the town of North Stonington approve an amended 5-year local capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 to 2030?
At this time, I'd like to request a motion and a second to approve item number 1. Motion by Bill Ricker, second by Ann Nowak. I'd like to ask Alan Ladd to come up and present on item number 1.
Hopefully everybody's got a packet tonight. You can see what the plan was for the next couple of years. As of this year coming, it was resurfacing Hangman Hill Road, as we've already started some pipe crossings this past fall, and then coming into winter. This year, we're gonna try to resurface it with the 76,000 to be a portion of it. The following year will be some stop bar paintings in town, kind of different various locations that we need to pick up from last couple of paving projects in the last few years. Striping Hangman Hill Road will also come hopefully the year after. This is a 5-year plan we put together for the state. We can jump years, which is actually kind of nice. Sometimes we kind of change roads around a little bit. And then the 27-28 is resurfacing Ruderman Road with striping as well. And then 28-29 will be replacing some drainage and grindstone, and then try to get some pre-level down, get rid of some of the dips, some bad spots there. And then 29-30 is finish the grindstone road, because I think it's gonna be quite a bit. If anybody has any questions. I think that works. Question?
Alan, can you explain a little bit about what LOSIP is, where the money comes from? Thank you.
From what I'm learning this year, LOSIP is state money we get for road improvements, bridges, town buildings, and town properties. it kind of changes of what we get every year a little bit. This year, I think is a touch more than we've gotten in the last couple of years. And I think the following 26, 27 will be even a little bit more. But it's just to help, it's state money to help improve all of our roads. Really, they have to be okayed by the state, so we have to put this in ahead of time. Let them okay what we're gonna do, make sure it's all good with their aspects, and then we get paid back once the job's completed, I do believe.
At this time, anyone that has any comments on item number 1 on the call or any questions, please come up here to the podium. Entertain our online guest participants.
Okay, I'm Ann Norwalk from Northwest Corner Road. This is strictly editorial. My blue pencil is working. Would you, I've got to go to the front page. Whoops. Oh, there we are. I'm sorry. For clarification, would you, let's say, when you talk about Grindstone Road, would you put a capital G there and say Grindstone Road? I wasn't sure what you meant until I figured it out. So wherever you saw, say Grindstone, add road and capitalize them. That's all.
Thank you, Ann.
The proofreader's working. Thank you for keeping our road so good.
Thank you, Ann. Anyone else have a comment or question? Are there any comments or questions online? We will now take a vote on item number 1. All those in favor of approving question item number 1 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Will the town clerk please read item number 2 of the call?
Question 2, to hear and act upon the following resolution. Resolved, that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized and empowered to obtain loans at current interest rates for loans to municipalities in anticipation of the receipt of tax collections and in anticipation of receipt of federal and/or state grants with respect to a project or program on such terms and conditions as follows. A, the amount borrowed shall not exceed $1 million at any one time. And B, the Board of Finance shall receive as early as possible prior notification of any borrowing. The Board of Selectmen is further authorized and empowered to execute any and all documents necessary and required.
I'd like to request a motion and a second to approve item number 2 on the call. Please state your name. Do I hear a second? Second. Bill Ricker, second. I'd like to ask the first selectman to present item number 2.
Thank you. This is a great crowd. This might be the largest town meeting we've had in a while. So thank you all for coming out. There were a few chairs up front, but I think we've just filled those. So this is a question, it's kind of a maintenance question. The 4 years I was a selectman and now the 4 years I've been the first selectman, it's on there every year. Basically, it's an insurance policy. If something goes haywire, can the selectman go out and borrow $1 million? I promise if we do, we'll do the right thing with it. But it's an emergency situation and we hope we never had to do it. The 8 years I've been involved as a selectman or the first selectman, we've never had to, but it's always been there. Again, it's maintenance. We typically do it in November. I guess we used to do it more towards the budget season in May. But for the last few years, it's been in November. And it's on here because it's something we have to do each year. I appreciate you approving it, hopefully, and then we can move on to our next question. But thank you. If you have any questions, do you have any questions about this, why we might have to borrow? Perfect. Thank you. Oh, Felder? I'll leave you. Yeah, it's every year. Well, every year we've done it. It's again, it's like insurance. So if something goes south, where we're not getting money from the state or something awful happens and we need to borrow the money, we're able to get it. That's what it's for. Yeah. Okay. And if there's any other questions, please come up to the mic. That question was, is this something that was done every year? And the answer was yes.
Well, I guess that's all. No one else has any questions? Then we will now take a vote on item number 2. All those in favor of the motion to approve the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. If the town clerk would read item number 3, please.
Question 3, shall the town approve an additional appropriation of funds from the undesignated fund in the amount of $672,224 to pay off short-term debt?
I'd like to ask the Board of Finance Chairman, Michael Anderson, to present on item number 3.
Sean, do we need a motion before we discuss? Pardon? Do we need a motion before we discuss?
After. Oh, yeah. Motion to approve item number 3 on the call. First by Bill Ricker, second by Ann Nowak.
I'm certainly glad to be here. Almost missed it. My daughter came home from college and has the flu. And then I forgot about it because she had the flu. Anyway, this is something we've been kind of hoping to do for a long time if the opportunity arose. How many here saw the quarterly for the fall? Well, I did like a 101 on the undesignated fund policy in that quarterly. And so the Board of Finance a few years ago initiated a policy whereby if it got above 17%, we would have to act after a year of it being above 17%. To bring it back down below 17%, because we don't want to hold the taxpayers' money above that amount. And we do that in one of 2 ways at this point. It's either pay down debt or to reduce the mill rate in a subsequent election. And for the last several years, if you've seen our other quarterlies, our biggest goal, one of our biggest goals for the last several budget cycles has been to not kick the can down the road with capital. And so we worked with the Board of Selectmen and the town crew to come up with a really good capital plan at a minimum for 5 years and actually looking out further. And the present budgets have capital items on them that cost us every year in the budget. And so this year, and looking at, if you have the form that has the undesignated fund in it, you'd see that as of like September, we were going to have about $4.115 million was be the 17%. And we were going to be above that. And we thought about using even more money to bring it below the 17%. But we voted at one of our meetings to direct the Board of Selectmen to find not to exceed $700,000 in capital items to use the undesignated fund to pay down capital debt that we already have. That way, we don't know what's going to happen with the budget season. I can't say that there aren't going to be other items that come up that we need to add to the capital item, but at least we can get $672,224 off of the present debt that we have. So that's what we voted for. And it's over 20,000. So we need a town vote on that. And, I think it's reflecting how our Board of Finance is trying to use that fund appropriately. The fund is a lot of people call it the rainy day fund. It's more than that. It's obviously there for emergency situations where if you had a bridge go out in a major storm or what have you, that you have funds available to you. It's also to show the debt market that we are fiscally responsible and we have enough cushions, like having a savings account and going to the bank and saying, all right, I've got plenty of money. I show that we have, we're fiscally responsible and you're able to get lower interest rates when you do go out to the debt market. And it's for mill rate stabilization. If any of you followed the last several budget cycles, last two budget cycles, we've actually, predicted that we were going to be maybe above the 17% if all of the steep grant money came through and the money returned from the state. That we were able to not only last year we maintained the mill rate at the same amount using a little bit of the undesignated fund budgetarily, and we never actually had to use it. And the year before, we actually used, I think, $169,000 from the undesignated fund to make sure the budget was balanced, should it be necessary. And we actually never had to use that either. We are in a great fiscal shape compared to other towns. But it's for mill rate stabilization. The year before, we lowered the mill rate by 0.11. So the Board of Finance believes that this is a great use of funds that are in the undesignated fund above our policy threshold. We don't have to do anything for a year, but we acted with brevity to knowing that we had these budgetary items already in capital. And so that's what we're asking the town to approve today, is to appropriate $672,224 from the undesignated fund towards those capital items. Any questions? Brent?
Please come up to the mic.
Brent Woodward, Yabbucks Valley. A couple of just basic questions so I understand this. Got this Town of North Stonington undesignated fund flyer handout. And I think everything you're saying is on the second sheet. That's true. So trying to derive the numbers, I'm a little confused by the numbers. But when I turn the second sheet, there's a bunch of items there that you're going to pay off. And you give the number of years left, the value, and it comes up to the 672,224. That's the way this is done. So there must be a savings in paying this stuff off early. It's always prudent to pay debt. Well, maybe not. Do you have an idea, or what is the amount that we are saving by paying this off early?
Brent, that's a great question, and probably Bob would be the best one to answer that. I mean, some of these are, we have a contract with the company that's providing us with it. And sometimes it's, you're going to get it at a certain many years. Some of it's you've paid for it and you have to pay every year. Some are leases.
Yep, lease to buy.
We have lease to buy, where there isn't necessarily, a savings with regard to paying it off early, but we felt that it was appropriate to pay it off early anyway, because we have this money and it takes that away from the next several years. But they're not necessarily, some of them, are any of them financed?
Everything we're paying off is financed.
Okay, so everything is, we're paying off is financed, so there would be a savings, yes.
There is a savings.
Yes, so Brett, the savings is just under $33,000 if everything's paid by December 15th. That's the interest we'll save on not paying in years 2, 3, and 4.
That's why Bob should have come up right after me.
Man,
Yeah, of course.
so here are the five items. Are these 5 items from a whole bunch of other items that could have been chosen?
Are
Were
they?
these selected? How were these selected?
So they were selected by the Board of Selectmen, Brett, on things that were leased for anywhere from 3 years to 5 years. We wanted to pick items that we could pay in full. So if something had more years in it, we didn't pay that off. We didn't want to take 2 payments away and then go back 3 years, so I don't have to make another payment. So everything there is being paid in full. And with the stipulation that the fire company, the ambulance, and the highway department does not add any new vehicles in place of the ones we're paying off. So we're actually going to get a capital vacation for 2, 3, and 4 years by having these paid off sooner. And by paying them off sooner, we're going to save about $33,000 in interest.
This rainy day fund has a lot of money in it, and I think we stand at 19.2%.
After this, we'll be down to 17 after making these payments.
Which is the upper limit.
Yes.
Thank you.
I still remember like my first town meeting and Brent stood up and wanted that rainy day fund spent down to nothing. So it was a very appropriate to want to speak to that. But we feel, I mean, right now maybe if it's at 17, it's still within what our policy is. And again, there are arguments to be made to raise that percentage, given that other towns do that, but we've so far have felt like 17 is a good number, not so much that it's overtaxing our citizens. And it really, if you think about it, the lower limit, which is 8.5%, is really, is it 2 months?
2 months.
It's 2 months worth of expenditures, which is what what you're supposed to have. I think the state requires 1 month. What? 1 month? Yeah, it's 1 month. Thanks, Sarah. So 17% is not that much more if there was a serious emergency where you have maybe 2.5 months if we got cut off by the state, for instance. So I think, this vote to send it back to the Board of Selectmen to find capital, so we do have that reprieve, is the best use of your money. Any other questions? Okay.
Seeing we have no further questions, I would like, is there any questions from online? Okay. We will now take a vote on, pardon?
We had
We
that.
started with a motion. Thank you. Keep me straight.
This is discussion.
We'll now take a vote on the question, item number 3, All those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please, if the town clerk would, read item number 4 on the call.
Question 4, shall the town approve the deobligation of funds appropriated as part of the 2023 STEEP grant project funding for an irrigation system for school athletic fields in the amount of $200,000?
Do I hear a motion or in a second to approve the question? Vilma is first, the motion is a second. Dan Smith. This time, ask the first selectman to present item number 4.
So as Michael Anderson just talked about taking $672,000 out of the undesignated fund, what I'm asking is we want to put $200,000 back into the fund. So why are we doing that? There's, you might have heard the word STEEP grant, STEAP. It stands for Small Town Economic Assistance Program. We are lucky being a small town, and we were on the distressed community list 3 years ago. And we can apply for things for STEEP grants where we get 80% reimbursement. So if we want to do projects in the town, which we had, one project is to redo this entire room over, which we might get to in about 2 years. We have 4 years to do STEEP grant money, to use STEEP grant money once we get it. But we've used it to create parking lots, to fix the transfer station to where it is today. We've used it to put in culverts. And again, when we spend this money, we get 80% of it back from the state. So it's a 20% match. In one particular case, in the 2023 STEEP grant, part of that project was to put irrigation in the sports fields. And it was around $250,000 is what we had it estimated as. So we got the STEEP grant approved. State said, yeah, go ahead and do it. And we had to jump through the hoops we normally would do to get the money from the state. But before the project started, we had it requoted, and it came into well over $300,000. We're responsible for not only the original $50,000, which is the 20% of the 250 that was approved. The state would give us back 200,000, but that's all we're going to get. So anything that was over that was, again, our responsibility. So we just left. I was just going to give him a compliment. Alan Ladd, our foreman, who just left, came up with a brilliant idea of instead of doing the irrigation, what if we got one of those, I don't know if you've seen those big watering wheels that automatically roll back and forth across the field and they spray water. And we said, we got one for the soccer field and try it out. It was around $23,000. Let's see how that works. And we really don't need to water the baseball or the softball fields during the winter. So let's get the soccer field ready to go because we're coming out of a dry summer. We tried it and the soccer field was beautiful this fall. And we spent $23,000 instead of over $300,000. So good decision and a good idea on Alan's part, good decision by the town to say, let's step away from this grant for irrigation and see if maybe we need a second wheel, which would only be another $23,000. It's still a far cry from over $300,000. So knowing that we're probably not going to do the irrigation, we can always go and get it reappropriated if we decide to change our minds 2 years from now. But right now we decide, why would we spend that money when we have a solution for a lot less money? And that's the kind of things that we try to do. So with that saying, why don't we take the $200,000 that was appropriated to do the irrigation project? We were going to pay $200,000. The school is paying the other $50,000 out of their non-lapsing fund to come up with the $250,000, do the project, and the state would send us $200,000 back. But since we're not going to appropriate that money we're not going to use the money for that, why don't we put it back where it came from? So now it can be for taxpayer use again. So we want to deobligate the $200,000, put it back in the undesignated fund, so maybe we can pay off some more capital somewhere down the road. And that's the question this evening. Should we deobligate that $200,000 that was earmarked for a project that we're never going to do? Probably never going to do. All right, and that's it. Is there any questions on this or on STEEP grants or on any of the? Okay, thank you.
Any questions online, comments? We'll now take a vote on question item number 4. All those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The town clerk is asked to read item number 5 of the call.
Question 5. Shall the town agree to pay Avalonia Land Conservancy, Inc. $75,000 from the land acquisition budget line C 3.15 Capital Projects Fund number 3235 for their purchase of approximately 100 acres of the Kincaid property that is located at 51 Babcock Road that will be preserved as open space in perpetuity?
Request a motion and a second to approve item number 5. I'm drawing blank on the name, sorry. Ann Nelson and Vilma is the second. I'd like to ask the first selectman to begin the presentation on this item.
Okay, I'm going to give the pre-presentation that Dennis Main from Avalonia will give the actual presentation. So in this packet, you have 6 pages dedicated to this question. The first one being a map. If anyone remembers a past selectman, Anita Kincaid, this is her property, was her property. Her and her husband Gary owned it. She unfortunately passed. Gary would like to sell this property. Anita always wanted to have it as open space. So they'd like to sell this property to Avalonia. Avalonia has come to us and asked us as a town, would we be willing to donate $75,000 towards the purchase of this property? So the first page is a map. 2 maps, actually. Next page is the purchasing price of $400,000, $300,000 committed through grants, $75,000 from North Stonington Open Space Conservation Fund, and $25,000 from Avalonia gap funding. The next page, and it should be highlighted, is can we do this? Well, the town has an ordinance on how we can expend the land acquisition fund. And if you look at section 2-103, expenditures from the fund, number 2, contributing to the cost of land acquisition by not-for-profit organizations when consistent with and furtherance of the purposes set forth and created in the created ordinance set forth in section 2-101. Any expenditure is subject to a favorable review by the Planning and Zoning Commission pursuant to GS 8-24 and approval by the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance at a town meeting. So the next page, you'll see that there was an approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The 8-24 review is in your packet. It's very favorable. It said it is consistent with our planning and zoning, planning conservation and development. It also was approved by the Board of Selectmen to move forward. It was approved by the Board of Finance to move forward. And that's why it's now here at the town meeting to find out what the town residents want to do about this particular question. We're going to ask Dennis May from Avalonia to come up and tell us why the town should donate the $75,000. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. Been with Avalonia doing these projects for probably about a dozen years. I followed in the footsteps of folks like Ann Norwalk, who was president of Avalonia, going back to when it was Mashantucket Land Trust, 22 years. Ann Nelson's also here. She's our town chair. Avalonia started off in 1968 as the Mashantucket Land Trust. It was a regional land trust at that time with 4 towns, Ledyard, Groton, Stonington, and North Stonington. It's since expanded to cover the entire Seacog area, so 22 towns, cities, municipalities, et cetera. And we have conserved in North Stonington about 1,200 acres so far. And these are all open to the public. They're for passive recreation as well as for habitat protection, et cetera. You've probably seen the slides that we have here previously in these, so I can go through them fairly quickly. I think the bottom line is what we're asking for is your assistance on the financing, where we have gone to the state. We've gotten $300,000 based on you falling under the distressed municipality rules. you get a 75% grant. So just for the fact that you are in that special category, you got an extra $40,000. Otherwise, it would have been 65%, you would have gotten 260. So the additional 75,000 brings us up to 25,000 gap funding left, along with doing surveys and a lot of the other work that we have to do. Title search, et cetera. We have gone through the title search. And if you took a look at the map, we can skip down to the map. I think there were some questions when we were here previously. The assessor's map shows where that little pond is in the middle. It shows going up to Ruderman Road. The title search clarified that is not part of it. So whatever neighbors were concerned about that, that is not part. And when the survey, the A2 survey is done, which we are required to do, that will all be clarified, et cetera. There will be access to the right of Gary's house, and that'll be cut out along with the farm buildings, et cetera. He'll still be in the 490 program. And we will have an entrance to the right. It'll connect over into our preserves next door. I think there were some questions on horses, and having come here from feeding my horses at home, guarantee you in the management plan, horse riding is equestrian is something we have no, I don't know if anybody had heard that we had prohibitions against horses. That's BS. We don't have a prohibition against horses. Every management plan for every preserve dictates what's going to be done on that preserve. You know, and you can't name all the passive recreation. I mean, it's one of those things. You can think of it and it's a passive, you know, cross-country skiing, whatever it happens to be, that is something that's generally looked at and allowed, you know, as long as the habitat, you know, is going to carry it. You know, can I raise it up a bit? I was saying on the passive recreation, if you can think of something that doesn't require building a facility, you know, whether it's cross-country skiing, photography, bird watching. Yes, ma'am. Hunting. Hunting is actually allowed on some of our preserves. Gary allows it now. We don't know if that will end up being allowed. What we've done in a number of towns, and in fact, 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you saw the Founders Preserve article Fagan wrote. The night before he was out there doing that one of the hunters had got a nice doe out there on the Founders Preserve. And that is something we allow, bow hunting, but it's done with an ordinance because that is at a different level. And I actually signed the 3 permits for the people who are hunting out there, but that requires a lot more state regulation. It comes under the hunting rules, et cetera. But we don't have a strict prohibition against it where there's an ordinance that allows it. And Ledger does. Bosra is going to do the same thing. They have it to their Board of Selectmen. Ledger's was copied off of Sprague. So that is something being looked at. But again, it's a privately owned, Avalonia is a 501c3 private organization. So you've got to go to landowner. In Ledger, you would go to the town on their Clark, the Clark farm, the old Clark farm where the town still owns that, and they allow hunting with the bow hunting there. And they would sign up as owner. So as owner, we would be the one to sign off if it was going to be allowed. But again, we would need participation with the town and actually having an ordinance that would allow it. And having had venison sausage this morning, you know, I'm not an anti. And if you've ever been to Bluff Point during the years when all the browsing was done down there and it was over browsed and you had emaciated deer, et cetera, you're actually thinning the herd. You're doing them a favor. You're certainly doing the habitat a favor. We just got a habitat study done on the Pike Marshall Preserve, which is in Ledger, 272 acres. It abuts the high school and the Burton property. And one of the things they said is you should explore doing something about controlling the deer because there are just so much browse there. And, you know, that's negative on the habitat as well. Some of the apex predators coming back are helping that, but clearly you see all the road strikes, there's more deer than we need right now for sure. So Yes, ma'am. We don't have the property, correct? Correct. And that's one of the land trusts alliance. We are accredited land trust, one of three in New London County, or the Seacog area, the other two being Colchester and Salem. Those two are merging into Avalonia as we speak. One of the things under Land Trust Alliance accreditation requirements is that you do a management plan within 12 months for all of your properties, but you obviously, you can't do the plan before you own it. So we do have a good sense, but you need to get out there, folks like Dr. Mancini, who, really have some credentials to go out there and look at the habitat and see what's there and what needs to be protected. That's where we, that's where we use to help write that management plan.
Please hold the rest of the questions till after he's done presenting. Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to interrupt.
Okay, so again, this is now enlarging that habitat. Where you see the green are all ones that we preserve already. We're up to about 5,400 acres conserved. So we're doing making a good start on the state's 21% that they want to see under the state green plan. And that's part of what we're doing about trying to accumulate these larger parcels. We're able to reach that habitat protection number that the state's looking for. And again, if you go down to the next slide. You can see some of the ready-made trails that are there. So for passive recreation, this is going to be probably, it's like inheriting a park. Gary's done a super job out there. I know folks like Ann have worked out there with Nina in the past. We're really happy to have this one be one of those that we're able to conserve. This will be able to be open to the public pretty fast. And again, some great fields out there. Gary's just done a great job with that property. So all of the things that you normally think: water protection, wildlife habitat, forest and meadow conservation, outdoor exploration, educational programs. And then the bottom line, next slide. So here's a price based on two appraisals. It's a yellow book, state level or federal level appraisal. And then a yellow book review appraisal. So the state has two appraisals they go on. They give up 75%. So we have the 300,000 committed. We're asking for 75,000 for the North Stonington open space, which is dedicated for open space as a partnership. And this is typical of what we've done with a number of towns. We just closed on one with Ledyard last week. The Pfizer property, they donated $80,000 towards the purchase price. We got grants to raise the rest of it. And after the 75,000, that would leave 25,000 gap funding that we would get from one of our smaller grantors. And those, many of your folks here in North Stonington have been those volunteers that contribute those hours. No. See folks sitting here that I know been out doing hours of volunteer and conservation work.
Ricker, 421A Wyassup Road. I stand before you not just as a citizen, but on the Conservation Commission. We have, for the past decade, had $75,000 in our land acquisition fund. It's been sitting there, looking for what's been said is, quote, a worthy project. We can think of no better worthy project than to add this 128 acres to the existing Arisman property, Babcock Ridge property, and across the street, the borderlands of east of the Assaconk River. The brooks and streams on the Kincaid property flow into the Assaconk, a river that we must protect, which flows on, of course, into the Pawcatuck. This has been a directive of the Conservation Commission for over a decade. We've been working on an eastern, central, and western wildlife corridor throughout the town. By adding to the Erisman Babcock property, this 128 acres would give the second largest open space in the town, second only to the state's Patchogue Forest. So it would be the town's largest protected at 349 plus acres. It's been concerned that Avalonia might sell property since some land conservancies do sell property once it's donated. Dennis, you haven't spoken to that, but I'm well aware that Avalonia does not allow the sale of any property once it's been acquired by them. This would be open to the town for hiking and all other passive recreations approved. It would be maintained by Avalonia, not by the Conservation Commission or the town. It would be preserved in perpetuity forever, and it would be available to us. So we are fully in support of the purchase of the property and using the $75,000, which has been sitting in this land acquisition fund for over a decade unused. Thank you.
Just to speak to Bill's note on the OSWA grants, and excuse me for just taking that as assuming people know that, but basically the state, when they give you the grant, it is protected in perpetuity. There's an easement, and I think we've shared that with the selectmen. There's an easement that goes on the land records that basically, even if we went out of business, and we've been in business since 1968, we're unlikely to go out of business, but if we did, they would basically still stay in protected status in perpetuity.
Okay, we'll start taking questions and comments. First up, Gary. Thank you for the comment.
Gary Anino, 91 Main Street. A lot of the questions that were asked at previous meetings have yet to be answered. So prior to this town vote, we as townspeople were supposed to see the purchase and sale agreement to see what actually is in there as far as the deed restrictions and what happens if Avalonia ceases to exist. We have yet to see any of that detail. That's first off. I am a Avalonia supporter. We're a member. Use the properties frequently. When this came up, I immediately pulled the IRS filings. They're 990s of a 501c3. They have a lot of money in there as assets, and I get that. That's land. That's not money they can put their hands on. But the latest on record, their cash less expenses was 1.2 million in cash. So if Avalonia has 1.2 million in cash, why would we take $75,000 of taxpayers' money towards a purchase of this where the taxpayers would have no input as to how the property gets used? That's just food for thought as we come to a vote. And the other piece I'd like to know is where are we on dogs off leash on the property?
We have a policy on dogs. I'll address that one first, and I'll go through. Gary, thank you for the questions. Dogs are to be on leash. I know some people talk about being able to ride with dogs and have a radio control, et cetera, but we have a leash ruling on our preserves, and most people respect that. And we also have a police pickup after your pooch too. And I think most people seem to respect that. I've been in places where you come back and your boots kind of have some landmarks on them, but we haven't seen that on our preserves. So I think those are good. Gary's correct. We are very prudent in our investment. We have had donors donate to us specifically to go in an endowment fund. It's named the Peter B. Perry Fund for a very large donation from Peter B. Perry, but that is to go there in that endowment for things such as the Land Trust Alliance's reserves that are required for legal defense fund, for stewardship, and a lot of other things. That's not an acquisition fund. It's not a bedrock fund. It's specifically, and the cash flow that comes off of that gets used then for operations, et cetera. But that is not an acquisition fund. And we typically have been working to build that up. We have a 10-year plan. We started off with $50,000 in about 2013. We built that from 50,000 up to 1,102,000 as of this month's statement, I believe, at CFEC. And we have it endowed and at CFEC as do a lot of not-for-profits. And the earnings on that should throw off about 32,000 this year that are going to pay for our full-time stewardship, half of his salary, et cetera. But that is not an acquisition fund, never has been an acquisition fund, won't ever be an acquisition fund. The 75,000 that we're asking for is a separate thing that we ask whichever towns we go to. Ledger just did one, as I say, they did 50%, roughly, it was 175,000, they paid 80, we got the other 95,000. And we've done similar ones. We're looking at Stonington, Cops Brook, where they came in with about $100,000. That's just something where everybody's kind of working to get this purchase done, and that's what open space funds are really good for. An example is Griswold. They're now got that on their conservation commission as one of their two top items is to develop a conservation fund, or an open space fund, so that they can then acquire open space land. And was there, purchase and sale agreement? Yes. Totally willing to give you that. Again, we have a purchase price agreed to. It's 400,000. That's basically all we would pay as a not-for-profit. So that number can't change unless Gary wanted to drop it. But the idea would be if he dropped it, the state is going to want to see that purchase and sale agreement send it to them. And typically we have it within 4 months. The attorneys just haven't gotten it all hammered out yet. Once we have it, it'll go into the state attorney general, and DEEP will approve that purchase and sale agreement. There will be no secret to it. I'm perfectly happy to share it. We had 6 hospitals last year, and I think we've got 2 purchases and sales out of the 6 in so far. And we've shared those with the towns. As soon as it gets in, be happy to share it.
Yeah, but sorry, the agreement was we would see it prior to a vote. That's my concern, because the devil is in the details, and we haven't seen the details.
Gary, I know you said that, but I don't remember promising that.
So
I know what I've promised, that as soon as we get it, I will be sharing it with Bob.
Thank you.
No, again, no secrets. These are public acquisitions we're doing with state funds, federal funds, town funds. Transparency is sort of the rule of the game here.
If I could interject, just to make it clear, we're not here tonight to approve a purchase and sale agreement. We're here asking whether the town should give $75,000 towards the purchase. Thank you.
Winona Burdine, 216 Casetta Hill Road. A couple of items. So the 2024 income tax filing shows assets of roughly 25 million and total cash on hand of 1.2 million. So I'll ask the same question about this ratio of the purchase of roughly 2/3 or 3/4 coming from the town versus a quarter coming from the trust. That's my first question. Is that a typical ratio that you would ask the town to provide on a typical purchase? Given that you have over $1 million in cash and $25 million of assets on the books. And then my second question is a clarification. Given one of the handouts in the packet that is to the town, there's some information on taxes. My question is how much of the tax roll would be impacted by the sale of this property going to the Avalonia Land Trust? Thank you.
So we're knowing that the number is $907.41. The part of the land that still has the Kincaid home and bonds on it is not being sold, which is where the higher tax value comes from. Most of what's being sold is has forestry tax exemptions. So it's $907.41 is the what we have been getting in taxes from that property per year.
Woodward, Yabucks Valley. I grabbed a hold of the budget, the approved budget. The one I have is dated 5/19/2025. And I went there because this cited a line item, C3.15. And so I gravitate to things like that. And so when I look at this, there isn't any money there.
The money has been we haven't put money there in the last 2 or 3 years. There's an existing balance of 77,000 that's been there, as Bill Ricker said, for many years. We just haven't added to it in the last 2 or 3 years. So you're seeing the last 3 years of a budget. You're not seeing what's in there prior to that.
Doesn't that strikes me odd that we're identifying a line item in a budget. You'd think you could go there and you would see that. Why isn't it? I guess the better question is, why isn't it there?
Because you're looking at a current budget with last year's history, the year before's actuals, and the year we're in right now. The last time we put money in there was prior to that. So if you ask for a capital balance sheet rather than just take a budget, you would have found out that in the capital balance sheet, there's $77,000 on that line item, which is identified as C, whatever the line item is.
C3.15. So that's the 3235 number that you cited in here?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a sub-tiered document I would have to get to.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's many, you're looking at, again, a somewhat current budget. There's many things
It
like.
is the current budget, I
Yeah,
presume.
the current budget for this year, but there's money that have been put in accounts in past years that's still sitting there for things like taking down old buildings, like we took down the cabinet at Ewart Farm.
I don't want to pursue this question any further here, but thanks. The second comment is the item says the purchase of approximately 100 acres. When we buy and sell land, homes, we don't want to say, I'd like to buy that house that's on approximately 25 acres. Is it 100 acres plus or minus 10? Or is it 1 acre? That's approximate. What is it?
That's a good question. And we will be doing an A2 survey and you'll have it out to about 3 decimal points. And you'll have the actual number of square feet.
What's the approximate number of acres?
The approximate number is going to be about 100 acres. He has about 128 right now. And you notice that when you go to the town GIS, the GIS is not actually accurate. So it makes it very hard when you're doing these estimations. But the state provides a grant, and as long as you stay within 10%, if you go outside 10% of that estimate, once you get outside that 10%, they're going to want it reappraised. So the appraisal is good for what we have, and it's an approximation. The surveyor will get it lined out exact, and we'll have a very clear document once, and there will be an easement that'll have all the meets and bounds around the entire boundary. So you'll know exactly where everything is. And we will be out and mark all those boundaries as you see the Avalonia signs around town. The whole thing will be posted with Avalonia signage. So people know that, when they're getting to the property line and not go into private property. Answer there.
Hi, Kavanaugh with Pine Woods Road. I just wanted to clarify I'm a real estate broker by trade. So usually all of those title searches, et cetera, are done prior to closing and committing large sums of money. So a lot of the answers that have been asked really should have been here, I think, tonight, but I'm new here. So I think there's some really good points that were made. My point is, and I ran at one point a Rails to Trails convention convention, okay? This was at the Coast Guard Academy. So preservation has always been near and dear to my heart. However, the in perpetuity of these set aside lands without seeing the devils in the detail, which is, are we really able to use them? And what I found, well, I use them, but I know what you can't do. So like horseback riding or any of the things that were mentioned here, bow hunting, whatever it is, the deed restrictions should be known by every single person, and they should be held and someone should watch over them. And I have a problem with this large acquisition of lands and the decisions for these lands in the hands of one organization. So, and with all due respect, I just feel that North Stonington, and I read here this wonderful preservation goal, and one of them is to encourage developers to incorporate elements of the town's historic past into new developments. Well, when you take large portions of land in perpetuity and you set them aside, then sadly, you might be losing a lot of opportunities. For example, I'll give you one, Mudville. There was a whole community in Mudville in North Stonington. I have a lot of the history of North Stonington that I've read and enjoyed, and I love it here. But we have farmers, homesteaders, and all kinds of talented people in North Stonington that other places that I've lived don't have. Very smart people, practical people. And when we put aside all this land and say, oh, you can't touch it, and it's all for the animals. Well, I got to tell you, I have bobcat, I have deer, I have bear, I have snapping turtles. I've got everything in my property in North Stonington. And I don't think the animals are doing poorly. I don't want to see development. I don't want to see solar panels. I agree with everything here, but the historic aspect is going to be lost if we don't know the details and we limit the use of some of these properties. We're losing cemeteries and all kinds of things that are historic that we need to preserve. And I've been on the lands. I'm not going to criticize everything because I don't have any right to, but I think we could be doing a better job. And I hope there's more farmers in North Stonington. I hope there's more homesteaders. I hope we can bring back some of the historic industry that was here. Wool, all kinds of wonderful. I mean, my property used to have a dye house behind it, and it was used forever for, serving the local public. And we can do that. We can do that again, but not if it's preserved forever and no one can use it. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to respond to clarify one thing on the deed. The Attorney General does not allow any deed restrictions, so people can't put deed restrictions, then sell it to us with it restricted. The state has their own restriction, their easement, et cetera. And as far as the historic, yeah, I mean, I get it. My 8th great grandfather Ezekiel Main and Jeremiah Birch were the first 2 non-white settlers in North Stonington in 1672. I understand the history. My great uncle Amasa and his father, or his nephew, Leif, probably many of you old timers know, Leif Main had about 4,000 acres in North Stonington. So I get accumulating land and all that. But Amasa was one historically with a farm. He had all the turkeys. And he also had this thing against eagles, but with the turkeys, he sent one down to President McKinley in 1898. So there was some turkeys in North Stonington back then that got down to the White House. That was kind of cool. But on the deed restrictions, no, that's what would be in there would be your standard. It's passive recreation and it's open. And we have to actually, within 6 months of closing, we have to put up a sign saying this was funded by DEEP. It's open to the public for passive recreation and for conservation. And yes, it's for perpetuity, but that's kind of what the point is to put some of these lands aside so they are protected. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? Of this, especially of the state paying $300,000.
Amy French, 41 Babcock Road. What if we vote no and the vote doesn't pass? What, does Avalonia still purchase it? Like, if we don't, what happens if we vote it no? If we say no and it doesn't pass?
That's the $75,000 question. We have to go out and find another 75,000, or we say, hey, Town of North Stonington, if you want to own it, you don't want to participate with us. I think we've partnered on a number of projects before. Maybe we transfer the grant to you and North Stonington owns it if they want to own it. Or we go out and we look for other deep pockets and other sources of funding. And, maybe Gary sells it to somebody else, maybe gets developed, who knows? But this is a sure thing. You got sure thing in one hand and you got, well, you don't know in the other hand.
So we lived there. That was family land. Babcock, I don't know, it's a crazy road. How are they going to access this? Where is the parking going to be? Where are you putting a parking lot? I know there's one down by the swamp, across from the swamp. I get that. But where are you? I mean, how are we going to know? I mean, we have we have young kids, we have animals, we have everything. But how do we know that they're staying off our land? Like I have concerns about that. But then I just want to know where the parking, are they accessing it through our property? How is that working?
One of the nice things about the deep grants, and we brought in somebody, Alana Sherman, who's very heavily involved in accessibility and disability, et cetera. And one of the things we've done recently, and the state actually put it in as a requirement, where you now have to have accessible parking designated. And we actually have it on, it's hard to see on that map, but down in the lower right corner before you get to the green, which is the next preserve. Basically, we put in an accessible parking area, including for handicap, et cetera, because not all people have the same ability. But we would put in parking that would be next to a road, so it's visible. The signage would be there. The state mandated signage for their grant participation would be there. And then trails typically go off from there. And so we had put one on down in the lower right that should show up there if you've got the latest version there. And again, we've done that on a number of our recent preserves. If anybody's been up Colonel Ledgerd Highway, we just got 94 acres in September from the town of Ledgerd. We already have a 14-car parking area there, including for accessible parking. We just did Tri-Town Preserve with, I think, 18 cars in, 18 car. Yeah, we just did that. And again, that's permeable, fully accessible parking right at the road, right at with the kiosk and a trailhead right there. So that's, any OST was, that state mandates it, not, we were doing it anyways, but it's just part of the protocol.
Next question.
Sam Emmert, 85 Rocky Hollow Road. I want to encourage the residents to vote no on this. And thank you to the lady in the green jacket. You took almost everything I wanted to say. But I have graduated 3 students in North Stonington. I have 3 more to graduate. And so far, none of them can really come close to affording a home in North Stonington. There's really no prospect of them in any near future of affording a home in North Stonington. So what we're really talking about tonight is locking up another 100 acres plus or minus 28 in perpetuity, which means forever. It means that from once this gets approved, Avalonia has complete control over it. They set the rules. They take that authority away from us, the residents. If this is a worthwhile project, it would make far more sense for us as a town, although I don't know if I could support $400,000, but I would rather see the town purchase the property, have control over it, and then decide in the future what our needs are and how to use the property. Once we surrender this to Avalonia, which is the easy way, which is the easy thing to do. Here's $75,000 $50,000. They'll take care of the rest. They have wealthy donors. Keep that in mind. We have no obligation to make this donation to Avalonia. And with all of these considerations, I really would, especially those of you with children, if you have children that want to live near you, if you're grandparents and you have grandchildren who want to live near you, think about what you want the town to look like. It is very possible to have a rural character and have more development. And when I say that, I mean single family homes. Avalonia doesn't want anybody to live on this property forever. Forever. I don't think it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. We got somebody in line there.
Carl Johnston, 8B Ruderman Road. A couple different questions. First one would be, you can answer me afterwards. What is passive? Passive, what is included in passive as far as being able to use the land? Second thing is, Sean, you mentioned that we're only agreeing to give the money. Then are you saying that we're going to be able to vote on whether they take and buy the unit? That would be number two. Don't do it right now. And then the third thing is, the question was, Sean mentioned that we're here to giving them $75,000 out of our funds. But he also mentioned it's not a done deal to buy it. Are we going to be able to say yes or no once we know all of the factors of the agreement, which they say they can't do until they buy it, which is kind of a up and down. Second thing is, you guys are talking about what you own or don't own. Your grant also states another $32,000 for incidentals. Is those incidentals for you to do the surveying and everything? Okay, that's my questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, the state introduced something this year, and again, you guys made out because it is limited to distressed municipalities and those that fall under the distressed municipality rules. And that is that the state will fund incidentals, because it got very hard for towns, that were distressed municipalities to be able to come up and partner, et cetera. So they give us $32,000, which covered the cost of an A2 survey, title searches, and some of the other things that went with this. And again, closing, legal costs, those are all documented costs that we have to then supply invoices to the state of Connecticut, and they reimburse us for those costs. So that was, be thankful on the downside for being a distressed municipality, because you get that additional $32,000 to help make the purchase happen. Otherwise, we would be out fundraising to raise that $32,000 as well. As far as the agreement, again, I mean, we're not asking for a vote ahead of or behind. It's just taking the time it takes to get the purchase and sale agreement. Again, there's no secrets to it, but if we had it yesterday, it would have been in Bob's email already. That's just, one is not related to the other from our standpoint. We're doing it as fast as we can, but we just haven't gotten that purchase.
Dennis, I think you wanted to know what passive recreation was.
Oh, yes, passive recreation. Actually, that goes back to, we had a Maples Farm park where horses allowed, bikes are allowed, running is allowed. All of these things. And Kitty, who was the selectman at the time, got a $25,000 grant from the state of Connecticut, DEEP, to do Maples Farm Park. If any of you have been up to Basra, come on up anytime, stop by farm, whatever. But we have Maples Farm Park. It doubles the population every Friday. It was voted at one time the #1 farmers market in the area. And when they built that and put that in, there was a question race. There was all the soccer parents and the different parents that wanted, hey, can we put a ball field, whatever. And the question got asked, and Dave Steiger, who was on our board, was the DEEP grant manager at the time up there, and they tried to. So it's one of those things like pornography. You can't define it, but you know it when you see it. So the state kind of came back with this thing about passive recreation that, yeah, it includes hunting, but it doesn't include motorized vehicles. It doesn't include a ball field. It doesn't include jumps, ski lifts. Just think of something with a structure to it. You can't have structures. And that's why with Gary's, we do a cutout, because they don't allow those open space funds to be used for any structure. within it. But passive recreation would be all those things you think of. And rollerblading, I mean, that would be something that comes under passive recreation if you had a trail that was appropriate for it. Anything that's, not a structure in a field, again, trying to define passive recreation, there's so many different things you come up with. Cross-country skiing, who knows, they come up with some other kind of device, et cetera. Come on, Ann.
My name is Ann Nelson. I live at 8 Middle Village Pentway, and I've been a resident of North Stonington for close to 35 years. And I also work on the Avalonia trails, which take a lot of maintenance. I can't even tell you how much maintenance. I'm doing the boundary walks right now, and it takes a lot of time to do that. In regards to housing for people, my husband works on the Affordable Housing Committee, and I see Mary Ann Ricker is here. If you want affordable housing in Connecticut, in North Stonington, then I would suggest that you be active member of the Housing Commission, because they have been trying for decades to get affordable housing in North Stonington. So you do have the opportunity to do that. That is available to you if you want to have affordable housing. They've got a couple of houses that they're working out right now, but it is not easy, in particular because it's very difficult to get affordable housing in this town. And selling 100 acres to having Avalonia put 100 acres is not going to make a difference in affordable housing whatsoever. So I would say each year, 1.7 million acres is lost in forestry in this country, 1.7 million acres. The more acres that we have for our children in the future is going to be crucial. We don't know what's going to be happening in the future. So the more that we save so that our children can have, and the animals can survive, which we need. So it's important to conserve that. So I'd ask you to think about all the different aspects of this in making that decision. $75,000 is not a lot of money. Nita Kincaid worked very hard in this community. She was crucial to getting Hewitt Farm, which has many acres that we enjoy every single day. And that's for your kids. That's recreational. And I know my kids they've always been active hikers. I've been hiking the Avalo trails for years, and they do take a lot of work. And there's not a we have money, but all the assets we have, we can't spend them. They're all in property. And any of that $1 million, you will be amazed at how much it takes to work on those invasive species of plants that we have to work on. We have to maintain all the trails when there's trees down, and there's a lot of trees down right now that have to be taken down. There's a lot of money that goes into the amount of acres. So I would say yes. Please vote for yes. Vote for your future, for your children. Vote to have open space that we can all enjoy. Vote so we can protect the animals in this community. And also, if you want affordable housing for your children, be active with the other organizations in the town that are doing that, and get the affordable housing. There are some projects going on now, but we certainly do need more. Thank you very much.
And if you come up, please. Is there a mic? No, we'll get you a mic. We'll get you a mic.
Is this working? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm not sure.
I don't.
I think I'm here now, all right?
Tap on the top.
I'll get up.
Just keep it close, Stan.
I'll get up.
Oh, I didn't realize it was people.
You're first.
Okay.
Try to be brief.
What?
Try to be brief and to the point.
Oh, dear.
We're going long.
Okay, Ann Norwalk, Northwest Corner Road, past president of Avalonia for quite some time. 50-some years living in town since that number's been mentioned. Anyway, this is for your future. There are towns, Plainfield for one, stop the protection of Title 490, so people with large acreages didn't have to pay the full tax. They got taxed on the forestry value instead of the other values of their land. It has changed their town because businesses came in for big properties It's changed the character of their town, and this will keep your rural aspect, which I think is very valuable to the town. The children use it. It's been mentioned as this huge money that shows in our tax return. It's the land that we preserve, and we can't, that's not part of what we can sell. That's not anything we can negotiate with, and that's been said. So I would just ask that you would do it. And passive recreation, as I said, you know it when you see it. And we are not really a recreation facility, but it is useful that people can do that. A lot of people use our property on Miller Road, Tri-Town, and that is a very nice place to go. So if you had houses there, it would, yes, you'd have the houses, but it changes the character. You do need them. People are still coming to town because they love it. You look around and you see houses being built. I just ask you to support this to make a big green belt that is much more useful to the wildlife than smaller places. So come and enjoy the properties that we already have here. And it takes a staff to run this outfit. We have, I think, 3 paid members. We need at least 1 or 2 more to move well. But we don't, we have bills too. We have to support what we're doing and be sure that we do it well, which I believe we do. So I hope you stand with us. Thank you.
Good evening, Jason Mancini, 64 Ruderman Road. I have notes, so I'll keep it brief so Sean doesn't give me the hook. I've been a resident of North Stonington for over 20 years, here to support the acquisition of the Kincaid property by Avalonia and the use of North Stonington Land Acquisition Fund for this purpose. With 3/4 investment from the state, a shared North Stonington investment in our open spaces will demonstrate our reasonable commitment. I am a former member of the Conservation Commission in town and also the Avalonia North Stonington Town Committee, and have long advocated for these types of common sense partnerships and investments. My wife Lisa and I use Avalonia properties and trails all over town and the region and enjoy taking our dogs out for walks. The properties are extraordinary. We're familiar with Kincaid property because they are neighbors, and Gary and Anita have graciously allowed us to walk on their property for many years. Simply put, it would be an extraordinary addition to the open space in our town and part of the connective greenway fabric in our town and region. We want our taxes to be used for this purpose. It's for the public good, and we need more of that. It's an investment in the quality of our life, in the future, in the rural character of our town. We should consider ourselves lucky that an organization like Avalonia continues to invest their resources in our community. I'm excited by the opportunity to create a greenway in North Stonington that connects a much larger network that our residents and visitors here can enjoy. Thank you.
I hear you. I hear you. Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. Okay, like Sean said, we're being asked to take $75,000 of our money, our town money, out of our land acquisition fund. Now, I've been here a long time too, and I remember when they set it up, we bought the Hewitt property and we had to borrow for that and we bought it. So to prevent that from happening again, they set up a fund, the Land Acquisition Fund. Now I understand, and it seems like it got changed over the years, that fund was going to be for land that North Stonington would buy and control and have for their residents. This is not going to be for us. It's going to be for Avalonia, which is a separate thing. And if you notice, the biggest amount of money going in is from the state of Connecticut. Now, I don't know how you feel now, but I don't have a real high expectation from our state of Connecticut for the shenanigans I've been seeing going on with it. Avalonia is going to put in $25,000. So they're coming to me and they're asking, hey, Brian, we want you to give us $75,000. And you're not going to have a say in it, of what we do with the property. Well, we bought the Hewitt property, and even North Stonington isn't following the rules for that. Because we have an ordinance about dogs. What are we going to do? Is Avalonia just going to let the dogs run? Going to be another dog park? I'm not going to pay for that. I do not support giving $75,000 of our town funds when there may be a piece of land coming down the road that North Stonington will have a complete say in when they buy it. I've given out enough of my tax dollars to people that just want, I need a helping hand. I'm done with that. That money is for North Stonington to buy land for North Stonington, not for Avalonia, not for Joe Smo. It's for North Stonington residents that lived here because it come out of our pocket.
Thank you, Brian.
I guess my 2 minutes is up, huh?
And then so.
2 minutes travel fast. Vote no.
Okay, I'm sorry I had to cut some people off or limit their questions. I know Amy, did you have another question you had? Anyone else that I may have cut off?
I have a point of order. Just Winona Redine had a question that didn't get answered, and I think it's given Brian's comments and other comments here, it's worth answering. The question was, you made a comment about Ledyard paying half of the cost of another project you guys just did. And we're paying 3/4 of that extra cost that the state's not picking up. Is there, I know we have 75 in the number, is there another number that the town could provide that would still allow you to do this project, or do you need the 75? That was a question I was asked and it didn't get answered.
In brief, that's the budget that's set up. In reality, whatever number we go out and we ask the state comes back and gives us 300,000. We ask you for 75. If you vote for 50, you vote for 60, you vote for 80, you vote for 20. Then we would go fill in the rest of the gap, right? I mean, yeah, it's up to you, yes or no, what you're voting for. You have 77,000, you have the 75,000 there. It is not unusual for us to have 25% of the total purchase price paid by a town. We've done that with Ledyard. And as far as the OS was, I think it was a question about if the state gives us, we have 409 acres up here. That's the Tri-Town Preserve in North Stonington. We have the Hermione Sheets Preserve in North Stonington. Both of those were OSWAs. We're right at the edge of the border. We have the Boyd, which was an OSWA from the state of Connecticut. There's three, right in close proximity, 3 state of Connecticut things that were, the town benefited from those state monies. And you don't see dogs running loose. You don't see yahoos out there. I mean, they're well managed. Ann is one of the people managing them with her team. Yeah, I was a licensed broker for 40 some years too. I understand it. The Board of Realtors opposed things like the municipal tax to allow you to buy open space. I didn't support that as a real estate broker, but they went to the legislature and opposed it. That would give you another tool in your municipality to actually raise money. Hopefully that comes back up again. I know Dave Bingham and some of the other conservationists around in Salem have supported that. But yeah, there are tools, so.
And one last word.
Hi, Ann. I want to thank you for your plug for affordable housing and the KINSA, Keeping North Stonington Affordable, and the committee that we've worked so long and so many years to bring some affordable housing to this town. Affordable housing will come. It is coming. You all know the developments that are in town under 830G. They are there and they are condensed housing. They don't have a lot of land because to be affordable, you cannot have a 2-acre plot on a hill. You have to have a smaller amount of land, and then you can have your house, which perhaps you can afford, or, which we all say we want. So affordable housing is here. It's coming. We need it. Everybody knows and everybody says,
Mary Ann, we got to
yeah.
stick to the item on the agenda.
All I want to say is, if you do have more compact and condensed housing, you need open space. So affordable housing and open space go together. So it's just so important to support any kind of effort to preserve open space where everybody has access. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Sean, can I make one comment on Mike's comment? So Mike Anderson, our Board of Finance brought up, can we vote to do a lesser amount? The answer is not this evening. This is a advertised meeting. The advertised meeting is for 75,000 or yes or no. We can't say, well, what about 50? What about 25? What about 100? Tonight's meeting is already called and advertised, so we have to stick with the question as written. So we can't change it this evening.
We are now going to take a paper ballot vote on item number 5. If the registrars would please, and their helpers would please distribute the ballots. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last time we came to one of these, it was 11 o'clock. It was also budget night. It was also election. And I never did get to speak.
Yes or no, and no other verbiage on the ballots. Yes or no. I'll read the question once again. Shall the town agree to pay Avalone Land Conservancy Incorporated $75,000 from the land acquisition budget line item C 3.15 / capital projects fund number 3235 for their purchase of approximately 100 acres of the Kincaid property that is located at 51 Babcock Road that will be preserved as open space in perpetuity? That's the question. raise your hand if you have not given the clerk your ballot. Raise your hand if you have not had the opportunity to vote. If I could please have your attention for the reading of the vote results. Yes votes are 50, no votes are 35. The motion passes. I'd like to remind those present that number 6 on the call has been withdrawn. Having completed the call and hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned.